All right, so we're gonna get started. My name is Lucinta Lewis Ellis. I am the owner, president, CEO of LLE Construction Group. February the 1st, 2020, it'll be 9 years since I started my company. It seemed like yesterday, but it'll be 9 years since I started LLE Construction Group. And I'm a licensed general contractor. And our focus is on renovating schools, colleges, universities. We work with charter schools, and we also provide facility support services, which means we help them maintain their facilities. And we also provide project management. So I am very gifted in space planning and walking into a building and giving some advice on what I think our owners should do to keep and maintain their facilities. So that's my passion. And that's what I enjoy, other than I love small business owners too. So that's my other passion. I'm also the entrepreneur in residence here at Richland Library. What that means is I provide one-on-one small business coaching to our small business owners here in Columbia and Lexington County. I'm just teasing. Well, what we do, which is awesome, in Richland County, we provide one-on-one small business coaching, which means we sit with a small business owner and I ask you, what's the pain in your business? What is it that's causing you the most pain? And what steps can we take to help remedy it and get rid of that pain that you're experiencing? And a lot of times in business, we have pains because we don't know what we don't know. So there's things about business that we just have not learned. We just do not know how to respond, where the resources are, who can help us. And because of that, we just struggle in silence. Or we fail in silence because we don't know where to go for help. And so I commend the library for applying for the Google Impact Grant, which allowed them to bring business owners like me here to provide that one-on-one coach. It's been phenomenal. And we've actually sold out. I won't say sold out because it's free. Woohoo! But literally, we're booked every time the appointments hit the website, the internet. We're booked within a day or two of those postings. And out of, say, this month, we might have had like 29 business owners we've coached. We may have had 5 or 6 that didn't show up, but somebody else came or took their place, which is really good numbers. So thank y'all tonight for coming. Thank you, the library, again, for this opportunity to be able to share small business with our community. So tonight, woohoo, I'm so excited because this is our last live event that we'll be having under my tutelage as the entrepreneur in residence here at the library. And it's intentional self-employment. And tonight I've known Tom probably ever since I've had my business. I've known Tom because I'm an alumni of Midlands Technical College, and Tom is also the associate provost. But I'm going to read his bio because it's so elaborate. Like I couldn't remember all the stuff I have to tell you.
First sentence and last sentence.
I love Tom. So first of all, I want to thank Tom Ledbetter for coming here today. I met Tom through the Fast Track Kaufman Foundation Fast Track program that I went through when I started my business. And it was such a phenomenal program, something that I needed, because when you start running a business, you know your craft, you know what you do, but a lot of times we don't have that business acumen to help the business survive. So going through the Fast Track really helped me look at every aspect of my business, from marketing to the legal aspects, accounting. Now, accounting is a big one because we don't do well when it comes to our financials, and that's why a lot of small businesses fail. Either cash flow or we just not managing our finances.
Cash flow is number one.
Number one. So going through the Fast Track program, I needed that when I first started my business because we grew. The year I went in was 2015, I think. And I started in 2011, and within 3 years we grew to $1 million company. And so figuring out, oh my gosh, hold up, I don't have the right system, structure, people in place to continue to grow. I had to hit the pause button and go back and figure out how do I put the right systems and strategies in place so I can continue to grow. And so going through the Fast Track was something I needed at that time. So anyway, I'm going to introduce Tom. Y'all, this is Tom Ledbetter. Yay! All right, I'm going to read Tom's bio, not just the first
I have
and
a
last
fan
sentence.
here, by the way.
Yes, he does. He does. So Tom is a management professional with over 45 years of experience in the rapidly changing, advancing manufacturing technology development, small business management, and higher education sectors. His experience includes line staff and executive management responsibilities across a broad spectrum of management and, of organizational cultures, which is awesome, both in the public and the private sectors, and also in launching and running his own business. So Tom not only works with entrepreneurs, but he was once and still is
Still am.
an entrepreneur. So who best to understand our pain, right? Since 2003, Tom has been an employee of Midlands Technical College, my alma mater, and I love
16 years.
16. That's awesome. In Columbia, most recently, he was named the Associate Vice Provost for Entrepreneurship and Educational Support. That's a great title. I'm gonna ask you what that means later.
And I'll tell you what that means. I'll give you at least today's version of it.
Tom is a graduate of the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So when you see all the blue, I think we have another one in the back. He's also engaged in a proven advocate of local community development activities, entrepreneur development, workforce development strategies, and larger scale economic development efforts across the state of South Carolina. He's a certified economic development and developer in South Carolina, and he is a certified master facilitator administrator for the Kaufman Foundation Fast Track Series and Entrepreneur Training courses. Mr. Ledbetter is a passionate advocate for education and has been recognized within South Carolina and nationally for his work in career development activities within K-12 and higher education. He speaks frequently on issues surrounding workforce development, entrepreneur opportunities, and the demographics of the changing workforce, we have a lot of those conversations.
Yes, we do.
He is a devoted husband of Cindy, and they are really enjoying life after children.
And we just found out we're going to be grandparents.
Woo!
Right?
How exciting!
Yeah. April. My wife is thrilled about being a grandmother.
And I'm told it's nothing like it, right?
There's nothing better.
Nothing better. Nothing better. He is the expert honey-do list. Oh, I have a couple of those. Completer, an accomplished Mr. Fix-It, an avid but not good golfer. I would like to introduce to y'all Mr. Tom Ledbetter.
Thank you. I guess when you get started, one of the first things you do as a speaker is you qualify your audience, right? So let me see a show of hands. How many of you here have a full-time job? You got a day job, okay? All right. How many of you have an existing small business that you're running right now? Okay. All right. So that will come up again in the discussion as we go forward. But let me give you a little more background. All right. Prior to coming to the college, I had 31 years in manufacturing, right, and it was primarily in telecommunications. So I came here in 1988 with an organization in Lexington called Pirelli. Pirelli made fiber optic cable. Prior to that, I had made copper cable and fiber optic cable, but then we made fiber optic cable here, and then I got into the electronics end of it. The electronics end of that business was purchased by Cisco Systems in the year 2000, and then I became a Cisco Systems employee for about 18 months until the wheels fell off of telecommunications. The dot-com bust. There was a dot-com boom, and then there was a dot-com bust. So I laid off 165 people to the street here, and I got a job working in a position as an officer in a little technology startup at Research Triangle Park up in North Carolina. So I moved my family up to North Carolina in 2001. Unfortunately, that telecom startup was in telecom. So it wasn't too much longer that I found myself in Raleigh with a home and a mortgage down here, 2 kids in college, and no income. And I decided that asking my parents for money was out of the question. So I said I should do something for myself. So I started my own business in August of 2002, and that business was in the sector of what was called biz buy sale. All right, so I would talk to business owners who are nearing retirement or something like that, and they wanted to sell their business, to get out of their business, cash in, get their retirement income. I saw the end of little Johnny and little Janie inheriting mom and dad's business. Mom and dad are not going to give them the business anymore. Mom and dad want to sell you the business, so you get to provide for their retirement and you get to start your own business. The element there that was dealing with was I was unintentionally self-employed. I did not want to be self-employed at the time. My wife did not want me to be self-employed at that time. And for any of you who want to go into business for yourself, look across the table at the spouse. That's the first thing you got to understand. If you have one, you need to be really sure that they understand where you're going, or that marriage will fall apart before your business does. Okay, and so I said I got to start something. I had to do it. I thought I knew everything about business. I've been in business 31 years. I managed $1 million campaigns and budgets and everything else. I put $25,000 into my first business and ran through that so fast, it made my head spin. Wife comes upstairs to my office and she said, "What you got going on today?" And I said, "Oh, it's routine correspondence stuff." And she said, "Well, what are you going to be doing?" And I said, "Look at this new PC. Isn't this really nice? What about these business cards? These really look great." She looked back at me, being the perfect spouse that she is, and said, "You don't have any orders, do you?" And I said, "How'd you?" She said, "Because you're here and you're not out where you're supposed to be, which is in front of customers." And she's never taken a business course, never doing anything else, and she's saying what needed to be done.
Right.
Well, that business is a networking business. Most businesses are. There's some element of networking, but this one was one where I would correspond 100 times a week and hope to get 10 responses back, out of which one would become revenue. And that's a networking business. I'm in Raleigh for 1.5 years. I've got a 1.5 year network in Raleigh. I've got a 14-year network down here in Columbia. So what I ended up doing was 2 times a month I would come back down here. Well, coming back down here put me in contact with the folks and president of Midlands Technical College, and I had the opportunity. He said, "Why don't you do this?" And I took that idea back home to my wife, and she really liked the idea of knowing where the next paycheck is coming from. Right? And that's point number 2. If you're used to a steady paycheck, forget going into business for yourself.
Right.
Okay. I mean, there's no amount of intentionality in the world that's going to overcome the desire and the predictability of a steady paycheck. Right. So you just accept that piece. Okay. Now we both lost in income.
Yeah.
And I remember you said it too. She went from not knowing what she was going to be doing with kids at home and no income in 2011 to where she is today, 9 years later. I think that deserves a big round of applause. Right. So I got started with the college, and my background in manufacturing, I was considered a green field guy. All right. So what that means is, for instance, we're going to manufacture these. He said, all right, the boss would give me one of those. Said, we're going to manufacture 100,000 of these a year. Go buy the land, design and build the plant, buy the equipment, train the employees, and get us up to 100,000 a year in this. And that's called a greenfield activity. And I've done that 4 times in my career, not including Midlands Technical College. But what I got to do for Midlands Technical College was essentially, in concept, greenfield, because the technical college system wasn't doing this anywhere. And that was the Enterprise campus that's out at our northeast location here in Columbia. There's 150 acres of land out there. 20 acres of it is Midlands Technical College. The other 130 is the Enterprise campus, and it's publicly owned land that's used for private purpose. And the charter for us to be able to do that was authorized by the state of South Carolina in 2004, and it's gone well. It's not. We opened the Enterprise campus about the time the bottom fell out of the economy. All right, so we were crippled a little bit there. But while I was waiting for that piece of it to pick up, I had the opportunity to say yes to a question that says we want to start offering an entrepreneur training course here, and we want you to go to Kansas City to the Kaufman Foundation to be trained to be a fast track facilitator. That required, first of all, you had to be an entrepreneur. You had to have walked the walk in order to go there, and you had to be willing to commit to doing the training and then going through a course, and be through a supervised course, which is a lot of credentialing is done that way. And I went with 3 other folks from here in Columbia. We went to Kansas City. We came home. We did our first class in October through December of 2004 with, at that time, which was called the Technology Alliance of Columbia. And 16 years later, we're in our 16th year of collaboration with the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunity on the Fast Track offering. We just posted today, as a matter of fact, that the next class for Fast Track will start on Tuesday, January the 14th, and will run Tuesday nights, 3 hours a night for 10 weeks. It's a 30 contact hour course, and it's broken up into and we'll see. I can share a little bit more about that. You can see information on that course on my website, which is the landing page for the Center for Entrepreneurial Success at Midlands Tech. But through that, it's been a gigantic learning experience for me, because one of the constants in this entire effort of the last 16 years is my undeniable interest in watching how people move from being employed to self-employed, and how some have done it gracefully and some have not done it gracefully. And to date, most of it has been done not so gracefully, because folks were not intending to be self-employed at the front door. Their career ended, they retired, something happened, the company folded, something like that. Major life events pushed them into the realm of unemployment, and one way out of it is through self-employment. But you can't be lackadaisical about being self-employed. You've got to put the bit in your teeth and go do it. So there's not a whole lot of backing out of intentional self-employment. I mean, you're making the commitment, the speed with which you transform yourself from being employed to being self-employed is under your control, and that's going to be gated by a lot of different activities, a lot of different characteristics, like how much money do you have, what's the product or services you're offering, how long is it, what's the speed to market for what you want to do, how long does it take to generate customers, how many customers do you have, can you sustain yourself in this activity? These are all things that you have to consider. And one thing that I mentioned to Lucinda coming in is that I've come to the conclusion that making the decision to go into business for yourself, i.e. be intentionally self-employed, is very much like the decision to buy a business. All right? You have to look at that opportunity from a lot of different angles. First of all, you have to look at it from the viewpoint of what's your background and experience, and does it fit what's necessary, what's going to be necessary in that job. The second is, do I have the money? What's the cost of entry into this field? And we were talking about franchises, earlier. And I got to be right with you folks. I'm not a big fan of franchise. All right, there are folks out there who made a fortune and franchises, but I'm not a big fan of franchise because you lose a lot of the flexibility as how you use your money, right? You're going to have to pay money up front. You're going to have to pay fees annually and everything else. And so it gets to where there's a lot of money you're going to spend that you don't really have any control over. And I do not like that situation. Okay, so you've got expertise and background knowledge. You've got financial. You've got just your own wherewithal. I mean, do you have what it takes to be successful and be self-employed? If you're going to go into business for yourself, from a financial perspective, there's a lot of things out there that you need to consider. Number one is, how much money do I have to put into the business, and how much can I afford to put into business once I get started, and where's that money going to come from? Because I am living proof that you do not want to use your 401k to start a business. It doesn't work. Unless you're 59 and a half and can get money out of your 401k without paying a 10% tax penalty on it, you don't want to do it.
Or unless you're a Placenta, who had to do it.
And I had to do it
because it was unintentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to do it. So I am one of those boomers that in that broad-based classification. It's not that I'm not ready to retire. I can't retire. Right, because I'm just not financially set yet enough to retire and live the way I want to. My wife retired. She retired last month. So I figure right now, as telling Placenta, I will work until they roll me out on a gurney under the blanket. All right, and then that will be, and to be honest with you, I'm fine with that. All right, I would probably get bored within 6 months of doing it, and I'd be back out on the street trying to find something else to do. But that's just the way I am. But I do know that at some point in time, things will change. But I also know that I got one good gig left in me. I mean, I'm looking around at all of you folks and all the businesses and business ideas that I run into, and I got this stuff percolating in the background and going through the brain. I'm going, yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that. And then I look at the wife and I say, she's got holding the checkbook, and I'm going, I'm not ready to create that problem yet. All right, I'd rather somebody create that problem for me, and then I'll get really intentionally self-employed. Key word here is intentionality. Right, and it's not something you can get into on a whim. You've got to do your work, and that's why I look at it as a whole lot like looking at an existing business and deciding whether you want to buy it or not. So what's one of the first things that you look at? I'll help you, help me. What's one of the first things you're going to look at if you're looking at buying an existing business? Yeah, does it make money? Okay, in the business of business valuation, which is what I did for 3 years or so, and still do a little bit of. One of the first things you do is called recasting the financials. All right, so anytime you want to buy a business, an existing business, you're going to get 3 years of financial records from the business owner, and you're going to go back and you're going to look at all these things, and you're going to add back into the bottom line any cost associated with the owners, any cost associated with their benefits, or their perks or anything else, and any depreciation, because what you're doing is you're looking at the financials from an EBITDA standpoint. Right? You talk about, and I had to learn what this was because I'm like you. Me and accounting don't necessarily get along well together. But EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. Okay? So what you're doing is you're looking at what's the clean cash flow of this business. And you show me a business that's got a clean cash flow, typically of $500,000 a year. I'll show you a business that's probably worth $4 million or $2 million to purchase. Okay. But when you look at going into business for yourself, you have to take the same look and the same eyeball and look at that business and look at yourself. And the first thing you've got to do is as the famous, I'm going to say his name wrong, the famous Chinese general Sun Tzu, who wrote the book, The Art of War. His first thing is, he says, the general that knows himself knows 1,000 victories. You have to know your own financials. You have to be honest with yourself where you are. You cannot make things up. You cannot say, I'll save $300,000 in the next year, and knowing that you're not going to do it. You have to know yourself. You have to know your own finances, and you need to know them really well. But you also need to know what's the lifestyle I want to lead, and what's the lifestyle I want to live. And because that whatever that lifestyle is, it's going to cost something. I mean, you got to have a place to live. You've got to have food. You've got to have clothing. You've got to have a social life. You're going to have to pay for family and everything else, and all that's got to come out of it.
Yeah.
And if you've got a steady paycheck right now that's paying for all that stuff, you need to calculate the impact of that check not being there, and how quickly are you going to be on the upstream as far as the funding is concerned, and the clean cash flow that's coming out of your new business. Because it's not going to be a trade-off. You know, we call this the side hustle right now. And the side hustles, I got my daytime job, but I got something going on the side. All right, I got my own gig going on, and I'll play here, there, and I'll play this, and I'll do this. Think of it like somebody who's working full time and played in a band. All right, and they go out on Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday nights, and they make a couple $1,000 each playing in a band maybe, and then say, well, I'm going to go into this full time. Well, how many nights a week are you going to need a band? And are you going to be able to go for a couple $1,000 a night playing on Fridays and Saturday nights? There is no Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday need for a band. So are you going to go making $10,000 a weekend? How are you going to go from $2,000 to $10,000 on a weekend in the band if that's what you got to have to survive on a monthly basis? So you need to know what it is you're dealing with. You know, and when you and I started out, that was kind of easy to figure out. It wasn't anything we were dealing with when we started out. So everything was falling up the stairs. But the idea there is, and I've got a little Excel program here that I loaded out on my website today that I want to invite you to take a look at, and it helps you understand your cost of living right now, and because that's the baseline. What am I spending right now, and what am I willing to give up, if I can give up anything, in order to spend the time necessary when I'm intentionally self-employed to spend full time on this business, not a side gig. I'm going full time on this business, and what's the revenue stream coming in? Now, Lucinda, me, the folks at the Small Business Development Center, everybody else can help you with the financials of the new business and the curve. Because it doesn't go from nothing to something in a week, right? It's going to go, and a lot of the assumptions that you're making about revenue availability, revenue as far as income is concerned, you need to make sure that you're backstopping those with money in the bank, because you're the number one killer of a new business is cash flow. And there's two reasons you run out of money. Number one, that it took longer to get started, was longer from when you started the business to the point of traction when you got your first order of revenue in the door. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in a municipality like Columbia, Lexington, Forest Acres, anywhere around here, and you've got to do something, your business needs to retrofit an existing building, zoning laws and permitting and everything else are time elements that you're going to pay for, but you're not going to generate any revenue out of because you haven't started your business yet. And I'm not saying that about the city of Columbia. I'm saying about any of the municipalities that we operate in are going to be that way. So I've underestimated the amount of time necessary to establish an incoming cash stream, or I've totally underestimated the amount of money that I needed to get going. I ran into a structural problem in my thoughts that said I thought it was going to be $100 a week, but it's $1,000 a week. And that's $900 a week more that's going out the door that I had not planned on. And if you've only got $5,000 in cover, you got 5 weeks. You know, you got 5 weeks to make it or break it, and then or you've lost all that money. So when you look at that and you evaluate your opportunity, first you start with yourself and what you're doing and where your money is, and then you fold it. Then you do a separate fold out of the business itself, and you do. I was taught this. I was taught this in the big sector, in the big business sector. Anytime you do a perilous prognostication of the future, you do a most likely, a least likely, and a highly improbable. So I'm going to do a best case, worst case, and most likely. Because somewhere in that range is where you're going to land if you have actually done the homework. And when you want to do that homework, come here.
Yeah. I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about, okay, most business owners start because it is unintentional. Like I'm sure a great percentage of business owners, most of us got started because of a layoff or because some just left their job because they were no longer happy.
Or their job left them.
Or their job, yeah, either or. And so when you think about it, when you look at people who start businesses intentionally, can you kind of give us an idea of who does that? I hate to say it like that because I mean, how many of you, if you own a business, it would just happen that you started it because of something that happened in your life? Oh, I'm the only one in the room. Oh, okay. No, the reason why I asked that because when you start talking about the financials and people understanding where your money going and understanding how much you need to live off of, that scares a lot of business owners. It really does. Well, at least the ones that I've coached. And it's like a topic they don't want to talk about it. They like, God gonna provide. We just gonna go out here. I'm just giving an example. Tell me y'all don't hear that a lot of times. People step out on faith and they do their business. And I'm not saying faith doesn't work because it has worked for me. But at the same time, you have to be strategic in how we plan business and how we go out, end up being intentional.
Well, but faith has no transaction value in food line on Saturday afternoon.
No, it does not.
And and I don't mean I'm not saying this as unfaithful. I just said I can't convince the cashier. I'm God fearing. I thought about this and I prayed all night. Right?
Right.
But don't you have any? I don't have any money. Maybe somebody behind me will buy my groceries once. I don't want to be offensive to anybody along those lines. But it does take a really hard look, and there's and in today's marketplace, the opportunity to fail has never been larger. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you can be the hot tamale in the marketplace for 3 months, and then another competitor shows up. Look at the restaurant business, right? Yeah. Another competitor shows up, and all of a sudden you're facing empty chairs in your restaurant. I got $1 million invested in a restaurant. I don't have any clients because something went wrong. Something out of your control happens. The power of social media came home to me probably 8 years ago when the new basketball coach at USC showed up.
Oh, yeah.
They told her best pizza place in town is down here on Defiant Street. And she goes out and goes over to that pizza place. And she comes out and she's tweeting, I didn't think that was all that good. Their business dropped 20% the next 7 days. And when your business drops 20%, that's your margin. If you understand your business, 20% is a tremendous operating margin for any kind of existing business, right? And boom, just out of nowhere, it goes south. So you've got all kinds of opportunities to fail. But the one opportunity you have to do it right is where you start. And before you give up your daytime job, before you give up that steady paycheck, you've got to do hundreds of hours of work and research. Okay. Unless they just dumped you out of the truck yesterday and I got to start to work almost immediately to get something done, take the time to come to places like Richland County Public Library. I'm going to put in a plug for the library, and go upstairs to the second floor
And third.
and third floor and talk to the people up there and do the research. Find out as much as you possibly can and put a value on that time.
Tell them what they're looking for, like when they're doing their due diligence and the research. Like, what's some of the key things? I mean, I can tell already.
No, but and you can help me out here if I leave anything out. What you're looking for, first of all, is what's the value of other businesses like yours? You know, who's out there that are doing the same thing, and what can I find out about them? And a lot of that information is available. A lot of it's available. It's called research. Second thing is, what's trending in that market? What's new right now? How many of you can think of a business that they didn't update their product line and a competitor came in with a newer version of that product or an upscale version of that product, and that business went south? Yeah. And hey, Blockbuster's CEO sat there and said, "I am never going to be worried about online streaming."
Right.
That's what he didn't call it that when he said that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be worried about video on demand because the computer network will never handle the video volume. And that was when everybody, if you were online, you had dial-up.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have.
Right.
But he was not looking far enough downstream to see where it is. So there's actually still Blockbusters in business. There's still stores that have a Blockbuster name.
Really?
Yeah, there's not but like 3 or 4.
Oh, okay. That's what I said.
But that's a good point. So you need to get upstairs and find out as much as you can. One of the things, to put another plug in, is that one of the things that the Fast Track course does, it causes you to look at your business from 10 different directions. What's going on legally in that business? What's going on financially in that business? Where's the marketplace, and who are the customers, and where do I find them, and how do I put myself in front of them? And social media is not the routine magic pill, right? In fact, social media can be more of a poison pill than it can be a success pill if you're not managing that right. The other thing is you run the legal side of it. If I'm going to set up a company, one of the questions you'll ask yourself at the front door is, what's my plan for getting out of this business? Because I'll tell you right now, if you come and sit down and talk with me, sometime in the first 15 minutes, I'm going to say, okay, that's great. I want you to start a business. We'll work on this together. But what's your plan for exiting the business? You don't ever get into a business without a plan for getting out of it. Or you might need it as an escape hatch.
Yeah, right.
But hopefully you're going to need it because somebody's going to come in and offer you a chunk of change for your business. You're going to say, this is good. I'm going to cash out. And I've had that happen to at least one of the Fast Track graduates. He's a graduate of Midlands Tech. Right? He was the first of Midlands Tech students to go to the USC Technology Incubator. He was the first company in the incubator to hit $1 million in sales. It was about Stephen, Stephen Ard. And he calls me up on a Monday afternoon right after the first of the year, and he says, "What's your address?" And I said, "What do you need that for?" And he says, I'm sending you a check. I said, "A check for what?" And he said, "I had a company come to me right before Christmas, made me an offer I really couldn't refuse, so I sold my business over the holidays." And he said, I made 20 times what I had in my business. All right. And he said, I'm writing a check to you, and I'm writing a check to the University of South Carolina for all the help that you gave me along the way. That's 1 in 1,000. That's 1 in 1,000.
Yeah.
And he got there because he worked his butt off. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a tall guy, big guy, and his family has been in that business since he was a little kid. So he didn't go into that business not knowing what was going on.
Yeah.
And many of you are not going to have that opportunity to pull a Stephen Ard and go into business because your family's been doing this for years. You got to go learn everything that you can about that business.
Right.
And every hour that you spend studying and researching your business pays for itself 100 times when you go into business, because you'll have some idea of what you can and cannot do and what you can pull off successfully. And most importantly, you should go into business knowing where your customers are and what you need to do to get in front of them.
That's right.
Because you got to be generating revenue as soon after day one as possible. And you don't go at that time, okay, well, this is great. I got to see, that's what I did. I ran out of money before I started my business, before I had any idea where the customers were.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, if I had to go back and do the research, do everything else, I wouldn't have spent the money. I wouldn't have gone into that business, right? Because I just didn't do the work.
Right.
I can do this. I can make a ton of money, right? Because that's who they show you.
Right.
They don't show you the unsuccessful franchisees. They show you the successful franchisees.
Right. That's right.
And these guys made tons of money. They're not talking about everybody that got flushed down the commode. Everybody else. Okay. So anyway, we're looking at the success factors and what you've got to do. And tell me when I need to hush. But the elements here are know yourself, know as much as you can about the business and the markets you're getting into, and then strike hot. When you go into that market, you don't need to piddle around. When you go into business, you go into business with everything you've got. There's no slow run up on going into business. When you hanging that sign out in front of your office, or you got those business cards printed, that's hustle time. That's when you got to be on the street in front of customers. You can't wait. And there's no time to say, well, I'm going to think about this a little bit. No. Money's going out the door while you're thinking. Okay. If you're paying rent, rent's going out the door. If you're paying a salary, salary's going out the door. And speaking of salary, a lot of business profiles and what you're looking at right now, if you're doing a side hustle, just about everything you're making probably going straight to what you call your bottom line. Now, you may have some cost in your side hustle. If I'm making and selling ice cream on the side, but that's my side job,
Right.
I can make 75 cents on the dollar for what I'm doing making ice cream. But that's just because I'm not paying any other costs associated with it. When you go into business, when your business is selling ice cream, you got a whole lot of other costs to consider. Overhead, distribution costs, insurance, the whole 9 yards. So it's all there. But there's the big discussion right now in startup businesses: do I need a business plan? And I'm in the group that says a business plan is not. You may want to build one, but you're not going to need one for at least 3 years. Okay. Because you're only going to need a business plan when you want to go to somebody and get them to loan you money. All right, and when you finish with friends, family, fools, and credit cards, you better be in a situation where you're generating revenue. All right, or because you're exhausted at that point. Because a bank looks at your business through you for the first 3 years.
Yeah.
So you don't go to a conventional bank and look for them to loan you money. Right? They used to loan money on the projected receivables. You could factor receivables, particularly if you're doing business with the government. And second thing, don't let anybody else use your money. If you don't do business on credit. Don't extend 30 days to somebody, because that's 30 days you've got to make up. Well, and a lot of times you don't have any control over that. If you want to be in that business, then I'd be questioning whether you need to be in that business or not. At your size, do you really need to be in that business?
Right.
So you look at that, but when you put a business plan together, when you put any kind of operational look at your business together, always budget your salary in that. And even if you're not going to take a salary, put a salary in there so you got at least a placeholder for the cost of maintaining your own life, your own household. So like I said, you can't buy groceries at Food Line on Saturday afternoon with goodwill, right? You got to have cash. Yeah. And if you're operating in a business where you're getting by on the skinny and you're not taking a salary out of it, well, where's your money coming from? Yeah. It's coming out of savings. That's going to come off it's going to come from friends, family, fools, credit cards, 401ks. A lot of things start with F, 401, but it's all of those things. All the F factors will punch up and will will flush your business right out from under you
Yeah.
because you didn't plan the financial end of it. And you got to plan the end of your steady income and the start of your new business income. And truly, often there's not any overlap between the two. One stops and the other one hadn't started yet, and there's a gap here. And that's why 50% of businesses that start today aren't here 1 year from now, and 85% of businesses that start today aren't here in 3 years. It's tough. I mean, it is truly tough.
Can we
So-
pause for right here and ask questions?
Huh? Yeah, absolutely.
Do
Absolutely.
we have anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Do you need a mic?
Uh,
I'm gonna give you one.
okay, yeah.
Okay, that's all right.
If you're starting a online business with a digital product, do you still need to have a business license and an LLC, or just the LLC?
Okay, I'm not an accountant and I'm not a lawyer, but my nose is going to tell me an LLC is a limited liability company, all right? And the LLC, 97% of businesses formed in the state of South Carolina today are LLCs, and they're formed as first stage business because that LLC is not recognized by the Internal Revenue Service for tax purposes. I mean, the LLC is a pass-through tax organization. So whatever you make in the LLC, you report on Schedule C, and it's reported on your own personal income tax, right? So profit and loss from operating a business if you're an LLC. But it's not for tax purposes that you want the LLC. It's for liability purposes. Lawyers are all about liabilities, and accountants are all about taxes. So you're going to have the same conversation with two different entities. But if you're, for instance, one of the groups that I talked to at the college is our anybody in the medical field. Because right now in the medical field, a lot of those careers start out as 1099 contractors. And they'll be doing 1099 contract work. Well, if you're a 1099 contractor, you're in business for yourself. I mean, you got to have your own insurance. You got to have, your own modality here as far as your business is concerned. And if you're in a business like a licensed massage therapist, where you're touching somebody, you better have your liability covered, right? And the limited liability, if exercised properly, I think I'm saying this right as far as the lawyers would say, if you exercise that properly, can separate your company and its risks and assets from your personal risks and assets. If you're just sole proprietor starting into business and somebody sues you for something that you do, some malfeasance or something that's suable, they can come after not only the assets of your business, but your personal assets, your house, your car, and everything else. Anything that's got cash value, they'll come after that.
But one thing I will say in reference to that, when you're an LLC, you literally need to separate your business from you personally.
Yeah.
There cannot be commingling of money, commingling of your resources, because if someone do come after you and they can show that you've been using both equally in one, then that kind of leaves you open for, a lawsuit or liability. So even as an LLC, you still have to protect yourself by separate bank account, separate
Right.
accounting system. You just cannot commingle when you have an LLC.
And state of South Carolina has a website called South Carolina Business One Stop.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go there and click on, I call them radio buttons still to tell you how old I am. You click on the button that says, I want to start a business in South Carolina. You start there, and within the first 3 questions, they're going to ask you, where do you live? And what county do you reside? And from that point, they take you to every agency, every licensing, every permitting operation that you'll need. But to establish a separate bank account, you've got to have your LLC. And you've got to have the LLC. You have to have an EIN, employee identification number, employer identification number from the feds, in order to go to the bank to open a business account. And your first money in your business, when it becomes something other than a side hustle, all right, which I know all of you are honestly reporting to the Internal Revenue Service that you're making all this money on your side hustle. But when it becomes something else, it becomes full time, don't mix the money. Have that account in place as quickly as you can. In fact, your first deposit needs to be made under the name of the business at the bank.
So I understand the LLC part and everything that's around that, but do you still have to have a business license, or you just have an LLC?
So he's asking, just so for the people who listen at home too, he wants to know if you still have to have a business license. The answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime you're operating a service or selling a product, then you're required to have a business license. Here in Richland County, I mean, especially if you're doing retail and you got to pay sales tax on it, I mean, they'll come after you legally for not setting up your business within the county or the city or wherever you're operating from. So if you operate your business in Richland County, even if you're doing it online, you're generating revenue that you're going to eventually report. So yes, you do need to have a business license.
And to add on to that varies county to county.
Yeah,
Okay. You know, in Richland County, it's county-wide business. You got to have a business license in Richland County, county-wide, no matter where you live. In Lexington County, there are 14 municipalities. They require you to have a business license to operate in those 14 municipalities. But if your business is located in an unincorporated part of Lexington County, you don't have to have a business license. But that doesn't mean you got. And if you that's just a business license. All the other things about sales taxes and everything. If you're selling a product that you're supposed to get 7.5% sales tax on, you better be having your sales tax, have that sales tax license to be collecting and paying that. But if you're a service provider, and what it sounds like what you're doing is service provisioning that may or may not be taxed for a sales standpoint. So you need to. That's part of the research that you do. Because all of a sudden you got 6.5% or 7.5% less money available to you than you thought you were going to have. A lot of times that's a killer. That's a killer.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay.
You may hear me. Did you want to do? Are you on Facebook Live?
Yeah.
Is that why you want me to do that? I figured it out. That's okay. I respect and understand what you said about not needing a business plan right away, but what do you say to the people that don't have one for the first however many years? I think it's important to have some kind of a guideline and that it's fluid because
Yes.
you have to stay on track. Can you talk to that?
I will, and a very good point. And let me reiterate that point. One of the primary reasons you need to do a business plan is for funding and financing, right? So if you're going to be if you're moving technology out of a public institution like a university and making a business out of it, yes, you're going to have to have a business plan because you're going to have to attract venture capital money sometime early. But many venture capitalists walked away from the startup sector of the market because they said it's just too unsure. There was too much money being wasted. When you come back to that business plan, I am personally trained and very big on planning. The reason to do a business plan is not so much for the financial aspect of it, of getting people to loan you money, as much as it is for your own internal measurement, all right, within your company. Am I doing what I said I was going to do? My business plan says that 9 months in, I was going to be doing $15,000 a month. Am I doing $15,000 a month? And if I am, great. If I'm doing more than that, why? And one of the things that I did learn early on is you question good results as also as questioning bad results, right? Because if you don't question a good result, you're walking away from an opportunity because I made more money than what I thought I was going to make. Why? And there's an answer out there for that. And that's what you want to capitalize on. The market's trying to tell you something at that point. But I agree with you. And I would say as I am big on planning, that you need those road markers as you start up. And I did not want to imply that you don't need a business plan.
Yeah.
But I think particularly in the market that we see today, is the concept is you get a marginally viable product to the market as fast as you can, so you can start getting feedback from potential customers. Because you don't want to get all the way downstream and have 15,000 red versions of what it is you're doing, and you get to the marketplace and find out they wanted blue ones. So you've got to get out to the market, get out to that first customer, get out to them, so this is what the product's going to look like, this is how it's going to work. You know, is this of value to you, and find out what that value is, because at that point, if it costs you $25 to deliver it and they're not willing to pay you but $15, you don't have a business. Margin's never going to make up for that.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, volume is never going to make up for that. So, very good point, and thank you for bringing that up.
And I like to add too, the one-page business plan, which is your lean canvas model.
Mm-hmm.
I recommend that to small business, like especially startups and small business owners, because it's not the whole 30-page, which I do. I have a business plan. I do. I have a growth plan, like where I'm going to go in the next 3 to 5 years or where I project. But I also have a lean canvas, and that yesterday we had I thought it was phenomenal. We did a program here at the library called Back to the Basics, understanding the basis of the foundation of your business. And we went over doing a one-page business plan. And we looked at each of the categories to look at, okay, what is the service we're providing? Mm-hmm. Who really needs that service? Who are we going to market it to? How are we going to reach them? What channels are we going to use? How much money do we need to get it started up? We looked at all of the different areas that impact the business, and it helps because it helps you to brainstorm and then helps you in your research to see, where am I taking this business? Who am I marketing to? Like Tom said earlier, what space are they in, and how do I put myself in that space where they can know more about my business and eventually utilize my service? So even if you don't want to do the business plan, which SBA has actually made it pretty easy now, because you can do it online, and you don't have to do it all in one. You can do one part here, you can do one part there, and you just it's really the vision that you have for your company. What is it that you envision? Where do you want to go? What are the resources you need to get there? You're documenting all of that. And it's like your roadmap or your tool to get you to where you need to be in your business. So I do recommend the business plan. However, like Tom said, sometimes you can stop and just do the one-page business plan, because it's just a good overview of the different parts of the business that you need to think about, especially when you're getting started.
Right. And we recognize this at the college. 2 years ago, we completely redid our existing entrepreneurial certificate, which is a 4-credit certificate. Mm-hmm. So it was 6 3-hour courses for credit. It's now 9 3-hour courses, and the last course is this business planning course. Okay, it's called Business Opportunity Analysis, and my next version of that is going to be in the spring of 2020. And the students at the college come through the other 8 courses, and they bring everything they've learned there, and their entry requirement into that I call it a graduate course, is to bring their idea for a business, and we work on their idea for that business for 14 weeks. Yeah. And they come into the class. It takes them a couple of weeks in the class to figure out that they're not there to get a grade. They're actually there to work on their business itself. Mm-hmm. And that's as we're pretty sure that right now at least in the community college sector of the United States, we're the only ones doing anything like this.
I love it.
Because we presented this at the national conference back in October, and it was very, very well received. And I get a lot of follow up from that.
Can I give you a shout out right quick?
Mhm.
So when they were revamping the entrepreneur program at Midlands Tech, guess who they reached out to in the community? Other entrepreneurs, because they wanted to know, what's working. What is it that we need to have in this program to help people who are considering entrepreneurship? Give us some feedback. That I think was instrumental. I mean, you already had a great program in place, but it's like taking those.
But it was
little
stale. It was old.
Yeah,
It
but
had been around
but
for a
they
while.
took nuggets from. I sit on that committee. Thank you. And we gave nuggets of what works as an entrepreneur and what we thought would be helpful when someone's starting a business that we didn't get when we were starting a business. So you don't know what you don't know. Back to that.
Like
So I
what
commend
they
y'all.
told us to getting started was, number one, you have to understand and know how to manage social media and marketing, right? Because no business today is going to do without some element of social media. And you need to understand all that. And you take a social media course and a marketing course for a semester, you come out of it with the social media plan. Okay, you need to know and understand HR law, right? Because one of the trickiest pieces of business being in business for yourself is having employees. And if you're not handling, and I keep saying this, and I've learned this in the manufacturing, and pardon the expression, ladies, you don't mess with a man's paycheck, his shotgun, or his wife, in that order. Okay? And if you're messing up payroll or not doing payroll correctly and paying who you're supposed to be paying and accumulating, you could go to jail. All right? It's one of the very few things in business ownership you can go. That environmental concerns, you can go to jail. You got accounting. And this accounting course is 7 weeks of accounting principles and 7 weeks of QuickBooks, right? Because you come out of the course understanding the operation of QuickBooks. Now, please be guarded. You heard me say this before. Having a copy of QuickBooks does not make you an accountant. And you need to, there's 3 relationships that a business owner needs to have, and you need to have them in place before you get started. This is part of your workup. You do this during the workup for the business. You need a relationship with a financial institution of some type. You need a relationship with a lawyer, and you need a relationship with a CPA. And you probably need a good relationship with God, right? Because you're going to be doing a lot of praying while you're getting started up. But when you look at the elements that are there, and you look at how you want to go about doing it, what we did was we said, what do you need to know? And then we went out and found courseware that would provide what you need to know. And interestingly enough, the business entrepreneurs are the ones that said, in the first couple of years of your business, don't spend a whole lot of time on a business plan. You need to be hustling and generating revenue, because in a business plan, before you start your business, you put together a business plan. It's a guessing game. It's just shot. Your business plan is shot full of assumptions, right? Particularly if you've not been in this business before. So you know what assuming does. Makes an ass out of you and me. But we also understand that the business plan itself is a point in time frame of reference. Right? It's like you said. It gives me a measuring point. As am I at it, under it, or beyond it? And I can adjust going forward. When we looked at our operations side, most businesses that we talk to today, and most of the businesses that I work with that come into either student, faculty, staff, or the community that come to my center and work with me, are service provisioning or lifestyle businesses. They want to provide a service. They want to do software as a service. They want to do HVAC. They want to provide those kinds of services. They want to be mechanic. All right. They want to be any number of service professions. And in the service profession, it's a matter of how well do you know your trade? Are you credentialed enough for the marketplace? And is the marketplace going to rely on you, going to trust you and how do you earn that trust? How quickly can you earn that trust? So there's a lot of elements associated with being successful in business, and there's none of them that are easy. It's none of them that are easy. And you know one of the most significant challenges you can have is to start your own business. And one of the most pleasurable experiences you'll ever have is being successful in starting your own business. And one of the worst nightmares you're going to have is starting up and failing at a business. But it takes right attitude to learn, and if you got the money and the wherewithal and the fortitude, that you can go into business and be successful with it. Okay? Like I said, when I retire, you know, and hopefully in the not too distant future, I got one good gig left in me. You know, and I'm going to figure out one. I'm going to give another run at it, and take everything that I've learned. Because 16 years ago, I started learning really face-to-face small business. And most of what I'm telling you right now is not something I've experienced myself, but I've experienced it through the Lucintas of the world and through the Berries of the world. All right, and I've been with them when they're crying at the conference room table. You know how many boxes of Kleenex I've run through when somebody's finally admitting to themselves that my business is failing and it's too late to do anything about it. But then I've also had the telephone calls like from Stephen. You know, he said, "Thank you for what you've done," and this type of thing, and that makes it all worthwhile. I still think that for what you're doing and where you want to go, you've got the best of both worlds right now. All right. For those of you who got a full-time job, work at that and make sure you keep that until you are ready to step out and step up. But before then, do all the homework you can. There's no God's going to take care of me and all this stuff. You know, I think the Bible says God takes care of those who takes care of themselves. Okay, be prepared. Be prepared as you get into it. And you know, how are we doing on time?
Okay. Yeah, 7:24.
Okay. What I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is flip on this Excel spreadsheet and show you a few of the calculations that it does. All right. I developed this Excel spreadsheet as a part of a presentation that I've given at least 10,000 times to 10,000 students. I haven't given it 10,000. I've given it to 10,000 students over the years, and it's based on experience that I had with my 18-year-old daughter the day she dropped out of high school. And my first question to her was, "Where are you going to live?" And I said, she started telling me what she's going to do and what her life is going to be like and everything. I said, "That's great, but I'm not letting you leave until you can show me that you've got enough income and you understand the cost structure associated with living on your own, that you can take care of yourself. Because you're not moving out today and moving back in 2 months because you can't make the second month's rent. In fact, when you move out, I'm going to change the locks on the doors," which I did. Okay, because you know, she said, "I'm going to an adult. I'm going to do this." And I said, "Great." She said, "I'm not going to live here very long." And I said, "That's wonderful." All right. And she's been back and forth in and out. But let me show you. Let me show you
And
this.
as you're doing that, he has a question in the back.
Okay.
Do you need the mic or? Yes. And as you get your. Hammer away.
Yes, I have actually 3 questions, but I'm gonna try to get back into 2. But you said something about cold approaching and door-to-door salesman. So you know, the marketing itself. See, I have a business that it's on Instagram, Etsy, and Facebook. So what would you find that would be, in your viewpoint, the best way to sell if you don't see the business taking off fast enough through social media? Word of mouth, because they say like overnight success is like a decade to 15 years. So what would you say? Listen, I'm not having success in that area, so it's not taking off fast enough. So what would you say would be another venue to?
Do you know why it's not taking off?
Because we actually launch like ads on there every time we come out with another kind of apparel or label or logo or branding scheme or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So in that area. So
but sometimes it's got a troubleshooting between the app and how it sells. So that's the problem with it. So Etsy, so right now it's on Etsy, Facebook, and Instagram.
What's your product?
Well, it's several things. Mainly embroidery, but it's some other stuff like branding, screen printing, heat press, advertising, print on anything but skin.
Were the problems you're having with the app problems you knew existed before you launched, or are they've come up since you
They
launched?
come up since I launched it.
Okay.
I set them up myself. I work with another partner,
Mhm.
and it's a family business, but that's the problem I'm having right now. It's with the troubleshooting between how to launch them, how to get them to skyrocket. So.
Go back to the question.
Oh, well, I'm kind of impatient right now.
Oh,
But
no.
yeah, but you said cold approaching, and then my second question leads into that.
Well, there's many different ways to play the game of golf. And any of you ever seen? I'm a big movie watcher. Anybody ever seen the movie Tin Cup?
Yeah.
Right, when he says he's trying to show her the two different methodologies. And the first methodology is how you grip the club and how you master the 27 different things necessary to hit the backswing and the follow through and everything else. Or the other way to do it is just grip it and rip it. All right. And in the small business world today, in approaching the markets that we have right now, you need to set yourself up to get. I mean, when I mentioned earlier, get in hot. Okay, know where you're going with the market. Know who your first customer is going to be. Get in front of them and go after it with everything that you've got. That will overcome, hopefully, glitches in the software as to what you can do. But once you see these glitches, you've already had an impact on a very important piece of the marketplace when you opened up, and that was any competitor that you had. They are going to be very aware of your presence and very aware of any success or problems that you're having. So you do not, if you've got a problem with the software or with the appware, fix it immediately. If it means stopping taking orders, fix that problem now and get back into full stream running. I don't think you have time to soft pedal, okay, to slow down and speed back up. I think you got to bring it to a point that says, Friday afternoon we're stopping. We're going to fix this thing by next Friday, and then we're going to kick it back off again, and we're going to go back in to the marketplace full bore. That's my 2 cents worth. Can you do that?
Yeah, another comment. Oh,
But using Etsy is relying on somebody else's technology and program. I mean, it's like a storefront with other storefronts in it. Wouldn't it be better if you had your own website where your customers come directly to you and service them that way instead of having them come to a third party?
like some of the clients that we meet with have both platforms. We do have some that utilize Etsy because that's where the creative souls are, correct? But then you have some. Okay, so you sell embroidered products like cups, T-shirts, whatever you want to sell.
I stand out branding and logo.
The branding and logo for business owners, and so they order through your platforms, Instagram. So you do not have a website.
Not right now. We have a personal email that you go to, but we try to set that up as well.
So I thank you for asking that question. Like I always recommend business owners have their own platform, your own website, and you do your ordering through that.
Yeah.
That's your platform. When you're utilizing other softwares like a second, third party, then you, of course, if something breaks down, you do have to deal with some of the glitches that that they're experiencing. When you have your own website, you can tend to just yours. That's my recommendation. Even if you have to do a landing page that shows your product, and then have some type of back office payment and ordering system where they can order through your website. That always works best with a lot of the clients that we use.
Yeah, so the other thing, we do it in Canada and US. We got in foreign, so we don't do outside of Canada, US. So the other question was, now I'm not trying to put Facebook on blast now, but would you recommend when Facebook sends you those ads, you can skyrocket this to get it to the right people? Pay this much money a day or a week. I mean, Facebook thinks you're like a billionaire already the way they advertise. I'm not trying to put them on blast, but I think I may have answered my question already because you're not going to put them on blast.
I do not have the experience with Facebook to answer that question.
Okay.
I'm gonna
I'd have to connect you up with somebody like the young man sitting here to answer that question.
I'm gonna let them answer it, but I'm gonna tell you this. If you have not clearly identified who you're marketing to and you just market to the world, that's gonna create a glitch, okay? So at the end of the day, you still have to figure out who is my primary client. Am I marketing to churches who need these or small business owners, or you have to determine, and then you go after that audience. Even if you create a niche market. Like when I started my construction company, I focused on schools. K through 12. Everybody in K through 12 would know who I am because that's who I went after hard to get work. So I don't know if that'll help.
It's interesting you say that. We market to anybody with advertisers, fraternities, sororities, restaurants, all that.
Finance.
It sounds like you
Okay.
don't have the niche identified yet. And when you are trying to market to everybody, nobody's fine. It's too much noise.
It's
in
too
the marketplace. It's too broad,
Yeah.
especially in branding and branding items. I mean, I can probably name 10 off the top of my head
Good
that
question.
specialize in branding, and they're using the same platforms you're using. They have bigger marketing budgets to put behind their paid ads, so they can drown you out.
Yeah.
And so what you end up left with is a trick. Everybody who kind of knows you already or has seen you in some way, shape, or form. Your best bet is to own a brand, own a niche first, and then once you identify that niche, target that niche, but also deal with your people locally. Since you are here, deal with the people that are local, identify, grow your niche, then spread out to social media where you can target specifically outside of the area of that niche.
And that's where that Facebook ads benefit once you do that.
Right.
And Facebook is a gold mine to look at how potential competitors are doing business, because if you want to find them there, you can find them there, right?
So,
And understand how they're doing business.
I was going to say, if you're going to do Facebook ads, look at the ads that are targeting you, because there's a link up there. You click why they're showing you the ads, so you can understand it. And then you start off small with a little amount of money, and if that campaign runs, then you add more money to it. No.
okay. And
I
then
just
Mary,
wanted to make I'm very pleased I'm the arts and media manager on second.
you need a mic?
I don't think so, but I just want to let you know for Etsy, anyone interested in Etsy, we've already run two, and I hear you on different platforms and working on that, but we've already done two Etsy craft entrepreneurship programs, which are 5 module programs. So they run over 5 weeks, and they touch on all the topics. So it may be some of the things they're talking about, but also we should focus on things like product photography. What we know on Etsy is that it's really hard to photograph small objects or clothing. So we have a local teacher that comes in, and it's a cohort of students that go through these 5 modules, like search engine optimization, marketing, photography, things like that for Etsy. We hope that can expand to other platforms, but if you're interested in Etsy, the next one should be in the spring. We just don't have an application yet. But please be on the lookout for that if you sell your product on Etsy. It's a really great program.
Now, since you mentioned
Thank you.
since you mentioned Business Campus, but you know we've got offerings at 3-hour class on Business Campus maneuvering going to be in May and in August of 2020 at Business Tech. So
that's great.
we find the dates. We post it out on my website. And you go to the website Midlands Technical College, midlandstech.edu, about Center for Entrepreneurial Success is on the front page. You click on that, and in the lower right-hand corner, you page down, you see a lifestyle calculator. Now, the reason what's going on here is these are the elements that you talk about as far as your cost of living is concerned. Right? And this just gives you an eyeball kind of number to say this is what I need to make in my business to replace my current income. Okay, how much you spend on food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, where the dollar signs are, you enter an amount there, and this spreadsheet in the background is calculating the amount of money you need to make annually to support that kind of decision. So you said, I'm going to spend, let's do let's do something like this. And I'll just do this very quickly. I'm going to spend $3 for breakfast, and I'm going to spend $5 for lunch, and I'm going to spend $12 for dinner, right? Because this is the one that I use with my daughter. That monthly total is $620 to eat this way. But in order to pay for that, you have to make $10,479 a month to eat that way. I'm sorry, $10,479 a year to eat that way. Okay? Now these things start adding up very quickly. Because in the background, it's taking these things and taking them from a monthly total to an annual total and dividing that by a percentage to represent taxes and everything else that goes along with it. And then you end up to live a lifestyle that, for instance, if my daughter wanted to live, she needed to make $58,000 a year gross in order to do that. And she was making $23,000 a year. And I said, how are you got to change some of these conditions here. So she came back down to the conditions and she looked at it and she said, I can't afford to move out. You look at something like this, you're going to say, I can't afford to start my business. Okay? Or I need to save up a whole lot more money before I get started. And that's what this tool is valuable for, because you can cost out your own lifestyle here and get fairly close to it. I mean, it's not an exact science. It's an Excel program that I did, so it cannot be complicated. But that's available on the website.
You download.
You download off the website. Yep.
And it's on which,
It's at midlandstech.edu/CES.
Do you have any questions from Facebook Live, Andy? Anybody been asking any questions?
not having, they've been saying that Tom is a wealth of knowledge, but no questions as of yet.
Those folks I got cleaned out there, coming back in. We have to have our own cheery spots.
They know the truth. Any other questions? So how many of you have a full-time job and you have a side hustle? Yeah. All right. And
I'd recommend you keep both of them as long as you can. I'm not trying to talk you out of going into business for yourself, but there is a right time to do that. All right, and and one of the things when you come out from a micro viewpoint, and everything we're talking about here is micro analysis, micro management, and you back up and you look at what's going on in the country and you look at what's going on in the world right now. One of the things you got to ask yourself is what I'm doing in my business going to be affected by a downturn in the economy. If I'm in the real estate business and I'm going to go into this and the housing market goes south, what happens to my we're supposed to come back over here. Yeah. What happens to my business if external factors cause it to the demand to go away? So there's always opportunity to look at your business before you get started.
yeah.
But once you get started, the opportunity to look at your business is minimized because you need to be hustling out there to generate that revenue because you've got a lifestyle to support.
And can I say this too? Like, there's been times in my business where I had to hit the reset button and go back to this, back to the basics, or go back to putting certain, parameters, like doing, this is awesome, right? And it'll help you really get a good idea of what kind of cost you need, even if you are operating a business now. And you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I stay in business? What is it that I need to have in place to keep, working for myself? And this is I think is helpful even if you're unintentional as well. Are you going to offer an intentional self-employment program for those who have a side hustle?
Well, it's in the works, and we're trying to figure out because I'd have to craft that course to be met where you want to meet it, not where I want to present it. I got to figure out where you folks are and what I need to do. Do I need to do it during the day? Do I need to do it in the evening? Do I need to do it on weekends? So that because you're essentially working 2 jobs right now. When do you have time to attend the class?
Yeah.
I think my point would be what Lucinda's making is you need whatever it is you need to make time to attend the class. You need as much training as you can get in the operation and understanding of small business.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What about, so this doesn't get asked often, I'm sure. Creatives, businesses for creatives. There aren't a ton of courses out there that deal with that. Is there a
Well, they're not called starving artists for no reason. Okay. No, but we have. I would call the South Carolina Arts Commission because we've done fast track for creatives twice with them, and we do that on a Zoom meeting. So I'll operate out of my offices at the airport campus, but we bring creatives in from all over the state on the Zoom platform, and it has worked very well. And we have the same lineup of speakers, and we have the same opportunities to participate. But I'd call the South Carolina Arts Commission and say, what have you got going on? I know they're in the middle of an initiative of training new facilitators to bring a business mindset to the arts world.
Yeah, and then the library has a creative entrepreneur program here as well.
There's resources available.
They are, yeah. But I was thinking when he asked that, I love again going through fast track. I even enjoyed Next Level. So Next Level is a training program that's for those who are starting off in business or you just thinking about what you want to do in business. So even if you're intentional, maybe there's something that they intentional self-employed or employment. What are we gonna call them? Self-employmenters. Anyway, class that they can take that can help them transition as well. Maybe you can create a program.
But the teaching point of the whole evening is there is however intentional you've ever been in your life, when you want to go into business for yourself, you're going to hit you need to hit a new level of intentionality. You're going into that business, and I'm going to do everything that I possibly can and more to be successful in this business. And it starts before you open your door. The successful, intentional, self-employed person is going to be a researcher first.
Yeah.
You got to know what you're getting into, so you can smell it when it goes bad, or when it's going good, and you know what it is that you're trying to do. I'll leave you with this. Our first fast track class in 2004 had a young couple from Newberry, South Carolina in it. Right? He is a graduate. I speak about it all the time. He is a Dollarmore School graduate in accounting. She's a Dollarmore School graduate in marketing. They were both in the German program, and they both spent time in Germany. That's where they met, and eventually married. And they were both offered jobs in Germany. They both decided to come back home. Okay, they came back home, did a couple of things, for a little while, and then decided they wanted to go into business for themselves. So they sold everything that they had, moved in with his parents in Newberry, and bought a storefront on Main Street in Newberry, and opened up Eurolux Antiques. And at that time, when they came to Fast Track, their business model consisted of essentially whoever walked in off the street on Main Street, Newberry, which was not a lot, and everything that they could hustle, like every third weekend, by loading up a 24-foot gooseneck trailer behind their Ford F-250 and taking off to a swap meet somewhere, what could generate there. They came to Fast Track in 2004. In 2007, they were Young Entrepreneurs of the Year by the State Department of Commerce. And today, 95% of their business is done on the internet. And they are, I'm going to say arguably, probably either the second or third largest purveyor of English antiques in the world right now.
Oh, wow.
Operating from downtown Main Street, Newberry, South Carolina. And they hit that number because they were Greg and Amy are disciplined. They know their craft. She knows her marketing. She is a great in the customer service. Greg knows the technical side of it. He knows the accounting side of it. He writes code. All right, so they're writing some of their own applications that they now have got other larger businesses interested, not in the antiques, but in the code that he's written, in the software package, and they have figured it out, and they're doing great guns from downtown Newberry, South Carolina. You know, just another fact about Newberry you might not know: there are 72, at last count, 72 female-owned businesses registered doing business in Newberry, South Carolina. So it's extraordinary. Right?
Got Bella's living in there.
But we got a fast track class starting in January with the City of Columbia. I've got a fast track class hopefully going to start by the end of January, in which I'll be co-facilitator. But that would be with Vanessa Moda and her husband, and doing a fast track for the Latino community here in the greater Columbia area. And then we've got these 9 courses that are laid out, and my task for this year is to take these 9 courses that we have laid out for credit and do a pull down of a short course out of each one of them that we can make a 3-hour course and offer through corporate team.
Oh, that's great.
So
Thank you.
we'll be approaching some of that. So
Thank you, Tom.
thank you for the opportunity. I hope it has not been too boring.
No, no. Do y'all have any questions? Yes.
What's like you want to start up a 501c3 business?
Mm-hmm.
When most of it, well, I know about the money part of it, but actually getting it started.
Now, I make a little fun of that. That all businesses are nonprofits at some point. But in the state of South Carolina, you can go to the Secretary of State's office, and I'm talking about how you form it. You form a public or private what's it called? Public benefit entity or a private benefit entity.
Through the state.
And it's through the state, and you formed that. And I formed in the last, from October 1 of 18 to September 30th of 19, I had 89 new clients at the center and formed 14 businesses, 4 of which were nonprofits. All right, you don't form a 501c3 at the front door. You form a nonprofit public benefit entity, and you apply to become a 501c3.
Right.
So you can operate a nonprofit tomorrow,
Yeah.
but you have to get approval from the Internal Revenue Service through an application process, because if it's 501c3, you're giving tax benefit to anybody that donates money to you.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of strings associated with what you can do with that money, particularly if your business folds and you've got to refund the money. How do you take care of that money? You can't spend it yourself because it's not yours to spend. It belongs to a nonprofit, to that 501c3. So there's all here again, accountant and a lawyer.
Right.
And most of the accountants and the lawyers that I'm familiar with, if you've got questions about setting something up, they'll enter a conversation with you essentially at no or reduced charge. But they'll get to a point that says, I now got to go on the clock with you. All right, and this is what you got to do. But if you got to come to fast track, one of the things that comes to fast track, I have an intellectual property lawyer come in and talk about business and intellectual property and trademarks and copyrights and everything else. And he routinely offers, he'll take a phone call from you at any time. All right, if you've got a question, if he can answer it, he'll answer it for you. If he can't, he said, I need to study this and get back to you. But they're very supportive. That end of the business community here is very supportive.
Does that answer your question? Yeah. Thank you.
I just wanted to let you know that if you have an attorney that specializes in business law, I know when I set up my LLC with my attorney, because I did not do it myself online, because it is a lot of they'll have a set fee for that. They know how to set up 501c3 or whatever that's called, that whole system. I mean, $300, I'm by the book. I have no questions asked, because a lawyer did it for me, and then I wrote my CPA in. So you should be, if that's really what you want to do, I get a lawyer that knows how to set up a 501c3 for you and ask them, they should have a package deal for you. They should.
And I'd get recommendation on a lawyer.
Yeah.
All right. I just wouldn't call one up. You know, I
You're
would.
not anyone up.
You know.
Give recommendations. Ex Anna, they'll
Thank you.
share whoever she used and whoever told.
I'll get this.
Yeah, thank
She's in
you.
the magazine, as a matter of fact, whoever picked up a magazine, I'll show it to you. I think they're in the back of the room. She actually has an article in there. Yeah.
Oh, the LLC, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Any other questions before we wrap it up? No? All right, well, listen, I just want to say thank you. This has been awesome.
It's been awesome for me.
I know.
It really has.
This is our last live.
But we did your first one together,
We
right?
did the first one and we
So
went
we're
out
gonna-
with a
we're going
bang
full
with the last one. Last live forum discussion, as I call them, for the library through the entrepreneur residence. And I want to take the opportunity to thank each of you for coming out tonight. Because thank you. Even y'all on Facebook Live, thank you. Because every time we put on something like this, there's always something to learn from it. And every time I leave, y'all share a nugget. I'm like, yes, or something I forgot about, and you reiterate it. And it is, we need this in business. We need to be able to have those who are knowledgeable in this space just to share, what they know and resources, because that's how we grow. So I just want to say thank you again, Tom Ledbetter. Y'all please give him a round of applause. I'm gonna go see him at the center too. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up, y'all. Thank you so very much. Button up, it's cold outside. If you have any questions afterwards, we both will be here. Thank you.